Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. In fact, I'm actually your sickly host, Rob. So before we get into this faction focus for one of the new Age of Sigmar 4 factions, so it's not a new faction, but you know what I mean, just a quick one that I'm motivated and excited about the rules we're about to review. But if you do see me be a little bit more low energy than normal, it's because I'm not very well. However, still excited and enthused about all of the faction focuses, so we're going to be looking at them right now. And the first one we're going to look at, or the one I'm going to look at today, is going to be Soulblight Gravelords, which is super exciting. So if you're a fan of skeletons and vampires and all other things, then this is the one for you. Okay, Soulblight Gravelords have got battle traits. Age of Sigmar 4, each battle pack when it's released will have battle traits for your army, unless it's an army of renown. However, this is the one that they're probably going to lead with, so these will be your battle traits. You'll also have 4 battle formations, which we'll talk about in a bit. Okay, so battle traits. What do we get for Soulblight Gravelords? Well, first one is once per turn army, end of any turn, which does mean end of every turn. They have got the ability to use the Hunger, where you pick each friendly vampire unit that used a fight ability this turn to be the targets. That unit heals D3 to each target, each vampire on the board, each. And you heal 2d3 if that target instead destroyed an enemy unit this turn using a fight ability. So that's not killed a model. Now, there's going to be a lot of people talking about the differences between Age of Sigmar 3 and Age of Sigmar 4, and this is being a straight nerf. And yes, it isn't as effective as what it was previously, because it's less wounds, and it's done at a different point in the phase. But it's still a good ability for healing and wound tanking that you're going to be able to do. It's just different. But different doesn't mean bad, because everything in Age of Sigmar 4 is in some way different, but it definitely isn't as effective. But either way, that's potentially in each turn, because the end of every turn as well. End of every turn, it's, you know, a minimum of healing 1 at the end of every turn, up to 3, up to 6, which is pretty fucking good. Like, so, and that's on the vampire keyword. And if you don't know where keywords are, if you look at the bottom of a war scroll, like we're going to look at Radikar the Beast, you'll see at the bottom here that he has got the vampire keyword, which means Radikar the Beast with his 12 health is going to be able to heal up to 2d3 at the end of every turn. This crazy stuff. So that's really good. Okay, there's a couple of other abilities. You got deployment phase and your movement phase. You got the ability to put death rattle or dead walker units. Again, keywords that you can locate at the bottom. So it's going to be like zombies and skeletons, and you're going to be able to put them into deep strike. Only half the units in your army are going to be able to be in deep strike, which is because that's what the rules say there. And then when you do decide you're going to deploy them, you can deploy them in your movement phase, wholly within 6 inches of the terrain feature and more than 9 inches from your enemy units. So you can pop up and you're like, boo. Which is pretty good. So you can deep strike, which is like, there's loads of things for that, like, you know, grabbing objectives, threatening backline units, pinning shooting units at the back of the board, all bonus reasons to do it. Next one is Deathly Invocation, which is done once per turn across the whole army in any hero phase, which means every hero phase. Pick a friendly Soulblight Gravelords hero to use his ability, then pick 3 friendly Death Rattle or Dead Walker units holding within 12 inches of that hero. If the target is damaged, heal 3. If it's not damaged, you can return 3 models to that unit, or up to a health characteristic of 3. It's pretty spicy, because that's in each turn. Sure, it's not tons and tons of healing. And one of the interesting things about both the Hunger and Deathly Invocation is this is quite nice for getting rid of many of the mechanics that we've seen, like, for instance, Nurgle's Disease Point, or for the burning for Tzeentch as an example. Now, the reverse is also true, where Nurgle and burning is also going to stop the healing. So you're going to have to be really conscious of making sure, you know, you either avoid that, or, you know, you could easily do the Deathly Invocation potentially to be able to make your unit use the Hunger and get rid of the Nurgle disease. Anyway, it's pretty good. And lastly, you've got a command ability. You can tell it's a command ability because that little 1 token at the top. Command points are a resource that you get in Age of Sigmar 4. You get 4 every battle round, unless you're the underdog, which means you're losing the game, in which case you get an additional battle round, an additional command point that turn. And if your army list had no auxiliaries and your opponent did have some auxiliaries, therefore you had less auxiliaries, you'll get an extra command point each battle round. And if you started your army list with only 50 points down from 2,000 points, like 1950 or below, you'll be able to get an extra command point in the first battle round. So that's where you'll be able to get all your command points. And what you're able to do with this one is in your once per turn army, so once per turn, but that's going to be every turn? Every urn? I mean, it's pretty funny, Soulblight Gravelords, but every turn, you're going to be able to use Endless Legion Legions, where you pick a friendly, non-unique Death Rattle or Deadwalkers, again, skeletons and zombies, unit at the start of the battle with 2 or more models that's been destroyed to be the target. Set up a replacement unit of the half of the number of models in the target unit, rounded up, wholly within 12 inches of friendly hero or within 6 inches of a terrain feature. It must be set up more than 9 inches from all enemy units. If it is your movement phase, you can set up the replacement unit more than 3 inches from all enemy units instead of more than 9 inches, but you cannot charge. But that's great, in my opinion, because you're going to be able to set up a unit to screen against your opponent. And then when you're screening against your opponent, that means your opponent isn't going to be able to use countercharge. So when your opponent, I'm going to just quickly give you an example. When your opponent says, I'm going to do a countercharge, you just flip them off. And that's great for you, okay? Like, oh, yeah, fine, countercharge my skeletons. I don't care. Anyway, you got some thematic rules here, which is nice. I like that. Some of them are interesting. The heal mechanic can be very strong on the vampires. We're going to look at some vampires in a minute. Battle formations, 4 battle formations for each army in Age of Sigmar 4. This one is Death March, and you get the Tide of Bones and Blades. Add one to the Ren's characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Death Rattle units that charge in the same turn for attacks. The target unit has few or more models than the attacking unit. Now, they don't show off any Death Rattle units in here, but what I quite like the idea of is if you got a way to give additional Ren to a unit, for instance, using the seasonal rules, where you can potentially add with your Honor Guard unit to add like +1 Rend against a certain unit. This means that's going to stack with that, so you can have Rend 2 against like a monster or something on something like lowly skeletons. That's quite spicy. We don't know what other things there are to improve Rend in this army as well, and we also don't know if some stuff already comes with Rend. Like I assume Black Knights are going to be able to. I assume they'll have Rend 1 or something like that, which means they'll potentially get Rend 2 on the charge, which is pretty nice, to be honest. Arcana and Incantations, when you write your army list for Age of Sigmar 4, you'll have to pick a spell lore, and from that spell lore, every wizard in your army can cast a spell, or they know all the spells to cast. Some spells have got the unlimited keyword at the bottom, which means you are going to be able to cast that multiple times with multiple wizards in your turn. Same wizard can't cast it twice. Other spells that don't have the unlimited keyword can only be cast by one of your wizards in a hero phase. And this one is Vile Transference, where you pick a friendly Soulblight Gravelords wizard, and then to cast this spell and pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in the target unit. For each 6, inflict 1 mortal damage on that unit, and if any models were slain, then you heal D3 to the caster. It's pretty spicy, because obviously if we combo this with the already existing heal that we have with 2D3, this means a vampire with Vile Transference can be healing up to 3D3 each turn, using the command ability to do this spell in your opponent's turn. Means that's going to be 3D3 every turn. That's very survivable, in my opinion. Can the same unit be picked more than once? No, you can't pick the same unit more than once. So you cannot choose it, because it says here that has not been picked to be the target of this ability this turn, then make a roll. So you can only pick a unit once. But it does mean you can do it unlimited time. So like if you've got 2 or 3 vampires, then bang, 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 do a mortal wound, heal D3 more, or heal D3 health, sorry, and off you go. Pretty great. Next up, we're going to look at the units. And let me tell you, I don't know if your local gaming store is stocking Radakar the Beast, but if you're a Soulblight Gravelords player, let's just go and buy this right now. This guy is absolutely here to go to Pound Town, in my opinion. 12 health with a 4-up saves, moves 8 inches. It's not the fastest, but does have control 5, which is spicy as hell. Now, in combat, he's almost as good as Shalaxi that we saw yesterday. So 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, Rend 2, damage 3, with crit mortals built in. So only 6s to hit are going to do 3 mortals, which is great. Then 6 attacks with Vrykros, Bloodborne's piercing blades, 3s and 3s, Rend 1, damage 2. Now let's go look at the keywords. Down below, you see he's got a 6-up ward save, so that's quite nice on top of his 12 health, 4-up save. He's also a wizard, which is great. Is a monster that will come in, that will be important in a moment. Is a hero and is unique. But importantly, down in the bottom right hand corner is a vampire, so you can be able to heal potentially 2d3 damage at the end of every turn. So that's really going to help keep that 12 health up and alive. If that wasn't enough, he also has access to a spell called Armor of the Night, which is cast on a 6, and until the end of that turn, you -1 to hit rolls and wound rolls against Radakar. That's pretty amazing, because that makes him even more survivable, and because you can do a command ability in your opponent's turn, you're going to be able to make it so that in their turn, when they try to charge you, you'll be like, cool, I've healed up at the end of the last turn, I -1 to hit, -1 to wound, you really want to fight me. Counter charge back in if they don't, if they're being a coward. And it is only cast on a 6, so it's very achievable. 7 is the average on 2d6. So that's nice. That's really, really nice. Okay, so then Sorry about that. He's got a passive called Call to the Hunt. If this unit charges his turn, for the rest of the turn, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Death Rattle, Dead Walker, and Vrykros Bloodborne units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So that's pretty nice. Add 1 to wound rolls is really nice. There has been a lot of -1 to wound rolls in the game, and it depends on some units, right? Skeletons might be like 4s and 4s. So sure, you can make them better with all-out attack, but there isn't a generic command for making them better with pluses to wound. So this is quite nice, and it's going to affect multiple units in here as well. So if you combo this with, I don't know, some charging, Black Knights, which will be Death Rattle, and then they're getting additional rend from the faction, from the battle formation, and now they're +1 to wound. You're just stacking all those things on top of each other for like just some real punchy power, which is quite fun. Lastly, once per turn for the army across at the end of any turn, which means the end of every turn, and this thing is nuts. The Beast Will Out is a special ability where if this unit is not in combat, it can move d6 inches and it can move into combat. Effectively, the ability to move into combat has been something that's almost ruined Age of Sigmar 3. Khorne players and people who've played against Khorne will be able to talk to you about Murderlust forever. Khorne players will talk about how Murderlust is great, and non-Khorne players will tell you how Murderlust is obviously incredibly rubbish to play against. And this is that, but it's on absolutely, it doesn't require a resource. It's every turn. So this means you're going to be able to move into other units and pin them. You're probably going to be able to use this in conjunction with Power Through, which is a generic command ability, which means you can also make an additional move. So this guy is going to be able to be all over the board, which is going to absolutely suck, in my personal opinion, and is you're going to have so much fun with this ability. Go pick this guy up. That's what I'm going to say. Also, maybe get like a furry costume. Have a great time. All right, so next up, we're going to look at Lucavi. Lucavi is like a monstrous vampire lady, a wizard. She's got 11 health with a 4-up save and moves 10 inches. Also a level 1 wizard and has the 6-up ward save and the fly keyword. It's also unique, a hero and a monster, but is a vampire, so is going to be able to do all of that cool healing. Let's talk about her combat abilities are okay. Right, 5 attacks that are damage 2 and 3 attacks that are damage 3. Like, the rend is massive, so if she hits some wounds, she's going to do a lot of damage. And maybe there's ways to improve that, but her 11 health kind of makes her a little bit risky. That you're going to want to do that heal almost every time. She has this great ability called Nightmare's Miasma, where you subtract 1 from the rend characteristic of melee weapons used by enemy units while they're in combat with this unit. This feels like you can obviously make it so that she's that much more survivable, which is good. But if Lucavi was to fight a Lucavi, then her Gore-Drenched Challenge would still be only giving her a 6-up save. So, but it's good. I think it's quite good. Depends if you can build some like really defensive units, like Blood Knights. Let's go look at those in a minute. So that's pretty good. And then she's got an ability called Impaling Talons, and this is wildly good, which is done once per turn for the army in any combat phase, which does mean every combat phase. And if this unit charges phase, pick an enemy unit in combat with it to be the target. Roll a dice. If the roll is equal to or less than the target's health characteristic, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. So, if I've got a 5-wound, 6-wound character, 6-wound character, let's call it, charge in, or a monster that I'm fighting, I roll any dice, I'm basically doing mortal damage, if it's like in most cases, which is pretty good. Now, it means I won't auto-kill the character, but it does mean I can put a real dent in it. And doing 6 mortal damage immediately to a monster before you fight it, what feels like that's pretty decent, to be honest. Also, obviously, using this in conjunction with counter charge is great. Finally, we've got the Queen's Dictac, which is a spell cast on a 6, and you pick a friendly visible Soulblight Gravelords monster. And importantly, Radikar is a monster. Wholly within 12 inches unit to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Pick one of the target's companion melee weapons, add d3 to the attack characteristic of that weapon for the rest of the turn. Companion abilities that you can see here are keyworded, and they have a special rule where you're not able to affect their like pluses to hit and wound and other stuff, which is what the ability is. But Radikar's Vrykros Bloodborne's Piercing Blades, a 6 attack, so now it's 6 plus d3 on that companion ability. So potentially 9 attacks that do damage too, making Radikar a true beast, which is quite interesting. There's a lot of restrictions on that, wholly within 12 inches. Got to only choose a companion ability. Probably, though, like your big vampire lords on zombie dragons, your terror guys are all going to have companion weapon abilities. So if one of those has got like a big D6 damage attack or a D3 plus 3, then D3 attacks onto that profile is going to be absolutely stonks, in my opinion. Lastly, let's go look at Blood Knights. Let's start out with they're a unit of 5 cavalry. They move 12 inches, which is really fast. 3 health with a 3-up save. Now let's immediately talk about comboing this 15 health unit with a 3-up save with Luke of Eye. So that means that if you attack them with any Rend 1, they're still going to have a 3-up save. Rend 2, they're going to have a 4-up save unless they all out defense, in which case they can have a 3-up save. And then they still pop in a 6-up ward save. So Blood Knights and Luke of Eye would be really survivable, which is super nice. So really, really good. Themselves pretty great in combat. Their Templar weapon has got 3 attacks each, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1. However, it's got +1 damage on the charge, which is also really nice. In addition, there's a champion. So this means, because there's 5 models in the unit, that's going to be 16 attacks, 3s and 3s, rend 1, damage 2, unless you hit an infantry, in which case it can be rend 2. These guys will absolutely smack someone. They're on large bases. It's always been difficult to get a lot of attacks from. A unit of 10 Blood Knights is going to be doing 31 attacks, damage 2. That's wild, in my personal opinion. Okay? And then the Hunts has got some attacks as well, but let's not talk about that. They've got a couple of abilities. The important one is Trample to Dust, where you pick an enemy unit that this unit passed across this turn to be the target. Roll a D3 and roll a 2+ on a D3. Or if you just think of rolling a D6 and a 3-up, they inflict that much mortal damage, which is kind of like okay. But then they've got Riders of Ruin. This is where it gets spicy. When this unit moves, it can pass through models in an enemy infantry unit and can pass through the combat ranges of enemy infantry units, but it cannot end a move in combat unless specified in the ability used. Now, this is quite interesting because especially passing through enemy combat ranges is going to be something a lot of players will not be used to. This will be a fairly, if not completely unique ability, and therefore many people will be like, oh, he's not going to be able, like the user, isn't going to be able to move models through there because, you would come into combat, but that isn't how this unit works. It's especially good if you're going to use things like charges, if you're going to do things like power through, which is quite nice. I quite like that. You have to really explain that on the tabletop, but it's good. And then lastly, there's a unit of Vargeists. They're a unit of 3. They've got 4 health each with a 5-up save. They move 12 inches. They've got control value 1. So that's only going to be control of 3 for controlling the objective. They've got a 6-up ward save, and they do have the fly keyword. 12 health with a 5-up save versus 15 health with a 3-up save. I think I know which one I choose. In combat, they've got 3 attacks each. That's 9 attacks across the unit, hitting on 4s. Ooh. Win on 3s, rend 1, damage 2, crit 2 hits. So I wouldn't say this unit is really designed to kill anything. What I'd say it's designed to do is use its once per turn in the army in your movement phase Death's Descent ability, where if this unit is not in combat, remove from the battlefield and set up any gain on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So this means you're going to be able to just have this unit right in your back pocket, and then as soon as you see a free objective, you're just going to land on that objective. Don't forget, objectives are much smaller than they were in Age of Sigmar 3. They're much, much smaller. You can get objective rings, which we saw on thehonestwargamer.com, which show you it's like a 40 mil token and 3 inches from outside of there. But it's much smaller, so maybe it's going to be much harder to drop these down on it. But that's what their utility and their role is in the army, so they're no longer a big combat unit. But we'll see. Maybe there'll be some sub-factions that really make this unit better. We'll have to see. Anyway, thanks for listening to my quick review of the Soulblight Gravelords Faction Focus. Let me know what you think of this video. And don't forget, this is the Honest Wargamer Streams channel where I make all videos while I'm streaming with the Twitch chat. I do make a bunch of edited content on the Honest Wargamer, so just the Honest Wargamer on YouTube. And I have a How to Play Age of Sigmar 4 video on there. I have a video talking about the new season rules for Age of Sigmar 4, as well as loads of other edited content about Age of Sigmar 4. So do pop over there if you want to look at some more hot Age of Sigmar 4 news. And thanks for watching my video. Thanks to everyone on the chat. Thanks to everyone on Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. Loads of love, and look after yourself.